Hello and welcome to Stork'd, the podcast, in which we discuss all things family and family building. This is your host, Julia. I'm a solo mom by choice, and I love sharing great stories about people who are building their families or supporting others to do so. Today, I want to introduce you to Emily Silver. Emily is one half of a dynamic duo behind the company Nurture by Naps, who really understand patient care and what patients need. And Nurture by Naps is this online platform where you can get all sorts of resources and support like courses and information, but they also have real-time text support from professionals. And while it started with support from nurses, labor and delivery nurses, and postpartum nurses, now they have things like mental health providers and pelvic floor therapists and occupational therapists and all this really cool stuff, which is recently launched online. If you happen to be in Boston like me, they also have a physical presence here. As you're going to hear from Emily, she's lived this. She had really difficult pregnancies with hyperemesis. She had miscarriage. She required extra support from lactation consultants and pelvic floor consultants and all the resources that she now provides through Nurture by Naps. I think this is a great reminder to find the care you need and to reach out for love and support from anywhere, whether it's an organization like this or friends and family. So here's Emily. Don't forget to share this episode, and please also subscribe to the newsletter. It's called Let's Start a Family, and we talk about all things family building, especially what's current in the news and real time. I am so excited to have you here, Emily, speaking with Stork'd, the podcast that celebrates the many ways to build and define your family. And you guys, you and your co-founder do so much around supporting the Boston community in their new family experiences and also the community beyond Boston. So we're here to talk about that. Can you give us a little intro about who you are and what brings you here today?
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Emily Silver. I am one of the co-founders of NAPS. I'll tell you a little bit more about NAPS, but in terms of my background, I am a former labor and delivery nurse, and then I became a family nurse practitioner. I'm an IBCLC, which is like a very long title for just a lactation consultant. And I'm a mom to 3 girls. They are 7, just turned 6, and 1.5. So that's a COVID baby right there. See that distance between those two? And so I'm sure we'll dive into more on naps, but I think just a quick way of putting it right now is our company provides support and education for parents through pregnancy, immediately postpartum, and into the toddler years, whether it's your first time, second time, third time, multiple kids. And we do that locally in Boston, but nationally to people all over the country through our online membership platform, Nurture by Naps.
Yeah, you guys offer so much. And if you're in the Boston area, the physical space and the variety of ways to connect with the Boston new parents community is tremendous. But I love that you give the same support, the same education and resources to everyone who wants to access them. I've always been curious to learn a little bit more about what your new parenting experience was like. I have this story in my head that you and your co-founder must have had some experiences early in parenting that drove you to create a resource.
100%. So to give people context, when Jamie, my business partner, and I started our business over 12 years ago, we did not have kids. We were working as labor and delivery nurses. We were taking care of hundreds upon hundreds of women delivering babies. And that's where we first opened our company, because truly we were exposed to parents leaving the hospital every day, and they were scared. They were panicked to even walk to the elevator holding the car seat by themselves. And they're like, oh my God, we're going home now. And that's where we first were like, okay, why are people truly so scared to go home? Because we didn't have kids. Okay, flash forward with it. So we opened our company, but truly, I would say for sure, every service that came out of NAPS came from our own experiences, and then taking care of more clients who are the driving factor behind that as well, in terms of saying, we need this. And so we would be like, great, let's do it. So it was definitely a combination. But in terms of even just looking at lactation as an example, my passion and Jamie's passion for actually becoming IBCLCs came out of having a really hard time breastfeeding the first time. And Jamie didn't even have, I wouldn't say she actually even had a hard time breastfeeding the first time, but just knowing how much work went into it and all the questions we had, and just having that aha moment of, wow, we do this for a living and we're trained medical professionals and we're having a hard time. How the heck does everybody else feel that doesn't even have that experience or background?
It's so true. And of course, you're afraid to leave the hospital and go home because we as a country do not provide any institutionalized support services for our new parents, right? And you look at other countries, granted, there's a huge literal tax associated with it, but other countries have lactation support built into postpartum care. They have postpartum doulas that go to the home and nurture the new mom and make sure that you're doing okay with your new child. They have sleep consultants. They have these things that make sure that you step into parenting in a very supported way. And without that provided from a government perspective, we need it from people like you. We need to have access to resources that help us parent to the best of our abilities.
Totally. I'll tell you really
Yeah.
quick too. Speaking of like other countries, and that is also where we get a lot of ideas. And it's not even like we don't even have to reinvent the wheel here. Plenty of countries and people are doing it really well in other places. So, one example of this, sort of even looking at European models or other countries and how they definitely do it better, we recently launched a service, Welcome Home. And it's a postpartum check for mom and baby here in Boston or anywhere in Massachusetts. And it is modeled off that idea of care that someone is coming into your home that first week home or however weeks out you are. And the entire visit is fully focused on mom and baby. Physical recovery of mom, mental health screening and referrals for resources, full assessment of baby, feeding, sleep, newborn care education. And it's a 4-hour visit. And part of the visit is the nurse will actually take the baby so the parents can go shower or eat or just take a break for a second. But you made me think of that just because it is modeled off of how other countries do have nurses or doulas come in and really spend that time with you.
Yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit about where you're drawing inspiration from. And one of the things you said, in addition to looking at other countries and how they're doing it, is you said you're looking at what your clients are needing and what your own experience was. I imagine somebody might be listening to this as a new parent or expecting to be a new parent and go, I don't know what I need. What are you hearing as some of the trends that new parents are struggling with that they need support around?
Honestly, the current theme, and I'm sure it will come as no surprise, is managing mental health for both parents, for mom, dad, partner, whoever that may be. The overall theme are parents feeling overwhelmed, anxious, depressed. And so, really seeking out, or maybe not even knowing that they need it, but then being told, seeking out support around their mental health. And that can mean a lot of things, right? That could be as simple as joining a new mom support group here at NAPS, because we know that peer support is huge for mental health and for your recovery as a mom. That could mean getting synced up with a therapist and having someone identify that you really do need that level of support and where can you find it. That could mean needing medication and like having an open and honest conversation about that with your doctor and what that could look like. So there's so many different layers of mental health. On a more simplistic level, that could be that you actually do a program here at NAPS or talk to one of us about just allowing people to come in and help you with your newborn. I think mental health can mean a lot of things to people. And right away, we might think therapy, meds, fine, that's a piece of this. But it truly could be as simple as like asking for help, accepting help, getting out of the house once a day to go on a walk, to get fresh air, joining a new mom support group or peer support group. So it's so many layers.
That's so interesting. Mental health is such a big topic in general post COVID, where I think we're all just realizing how unhealthy we are feeling, having been isolated for a very long time. What other post COVID trends are you seeing in the new parent communities?
Parents wanting to get out and be back in like in real life and sort of being maybe a little afraid to do that. Because throughout the pandemic, we were in our homes and we did stay in, and we really only left for strategic, like certain appointments. And we can get out and about in a greater sense now. And there's a level of anxiety around that because that feels really different. And just being able to, like I said before, taking the walk That to me sounds really simple, right? Because I've had 3 kids. I love being outside. And I know that for my own sanity, I had to get out once a day. That's not simple to, I'm running a group right now of a bunch of new moms. That doesn't sound simple to them. And I get it because they haven't had to do it.
So you jokingly said your third was a COVID baby. Are you finding that your new parent experience or you're being a new parent to that child because you're currently a
Right.
parent is different from your parenting experience in the early days with the other children?
Third baby, that experience is 100% different from my first two. But I actually don't think it's from like COVID or the pandemic. I joke that she's a COVID baby because she's 1.5 and her sisters are 6 and 7. And I swore up and down that I would never be pregnant again because I had severe hyperemesis in all of my pregnancies. Like we're talking IV fluids the whole time, in and out of the hospital, not able to work, like debilitating. And I joke, COVID baby, like we're in, nowhere to go, nothing to do, too many margaritas, bam, here I am pregnant again. But honestly, I'm so glad that this happened because the third baby was like the best thing that could have happened to our family. And it is so much different in a positive sense because quick snapshots of my first baby to my first baby, even though I was a nurse in this field, I struggled when I was pregnant. I didn't have a lot of support systems or mental health set up, even though I should have. So I struggled postpartum with postpartum anxiety. I was a martyr. I like didn't ask for help or accept help. And then I would call like in a panic, desperate when I was on my lows. I didn't allow my husband to do feeds overnight so I could sleep. I'm breastfeeding. I have to do it all. Like I all of the things that I encourage people to not do, I did versus
So that really comes from your own experience, from your own having been in the depths. What did that feel like? What did it feel like when you were trying to do it all?
horrible. It felt like I sucked at everything. I was really anxious and not addressing that or taking care. I was not taking care of myself. I was trying to take care of everybody else, including the baby first. And because I was suffering, I wasn't able to even do a good job at all of those things. And then I felt like I sucked at everything. My baby wasn't sleeping through the night. She had severe reflux and was on medication. She, in retrospect, probably had allergies. My partner was back at work and I was home alone a lot during the day. And I didn't know how to communicate my needs to him clearly and directly. I just was waiting around for somebody to maybe read my mind. I had plenty of family that would be willing to help me. I could afford to pay like for somebody maybe to come babysit once a week. I didn't even know how to do these things, if that makes sense.
And how much does that experience translate into the work that you're doing now? Like when you're talking to these new moms, are you talking directly from experience? Do you talk instead from a scientific perspective and use data and research? Where's the underpinnings of the work that you're doing?
So truly, it's a combination of those things, which I honestly feel like out there in our culture right now, like it's one or the other. Truly, if you go to your doctor appointment, it's very like medical based, data driven, cookie cutter sometimes of like, this is what you need to do, go do it. And then there's the world of parenting advice, which is incredibly overwhelming. You might be getting that. You could be getting it through like books or courses. You could be getting it on Instagram or TikTok or like your friend at the playground, right? There is this element of, I think what makes Jamie, I know what makes Jamie and I so different and what makes NAP so special is that we are one of the first places, in my opinion, to say, you know what, we're going to show up and actually provide support and education to you that is evidence based, or we're calling out what we do and we don't know, like what we don't even have research on, right? It is medical, it is evidence based, it's data driven. But we are going to bring in some really parenting advice. Like we really know how we found this sweet spot of like merging those two pathways. And it is not cookie cutter. It is not like what I would tell you to do. Truly could be very different than what I would tell like your mom, friend, or somebody else to do. I have to ask parents a lot of questions. It could be like 10 or 12 questions about sleep, for example, just to figure out what truly is going on in their home. And it has to do with like how the parents are doing physically, mentally, what's going on with their baby. There's so many layers, and I want to see and know all of it to be able to tell somebody not how to do it, but to say, okay, here are your options. And maybe I come up with 2 or 3 options for those parents or that mom, and they get to choose what they're going to do. I'm not going to tell them how to do it. I'll tell them like what I might do or what I would tell my sister to do if they really want me to, but I actually want them to decide. I want parents to be empowered to make a decision that's best for them and their baby without judgment.
The without judgment piece is really important. There is these days, and you mentioned Instagram and TikTok, I started laughing because it seems to me, and maybe I'm just like witnessing this from the social media space, that there are these entrenched perspectives on certain things that should not necessarily be so controversial, but are deeply controversial. For instance, there's a lot of controversy in lactation and the way we talk about it and the way we teach people about lactation. As far as I understand, the history of lactation is that it used to be something that was highly emphasized. And then when formula was launched, it was understood to be expensive. And so if you had any money, you gave your kid formula, and it was seen as very déclassé or just gross to feed your baby. And then there's this movement back to breast is best, which shamed and embarrassed parents who can't or weren't in a position to do that. And so now we're in this position where there seems to be these like deep entrenched opinions about what is best, and they're nasty. People are mean and judgmental to each other. The same with sleep, about whether or not you sleep train. People are really tough on one another. How does it feel to be advising people through controversies like these?
So I think that's the piece where we get back to the research, what that parent really wants without judgment. So let's use feeding as an example. Okay. So when I work with a parent, a mom, let's say, on how she wants to feed her baby, I have to get her to shut out all that outside noise. And so in doing so, when we're thinking about breastfeeding or formula, what I will share is what we do know from research about like the benefits of breastfeeding, what we thought we knew from research that actually really wasn't that great, right? And what we know about the research of formula. And to keep it really simplistic in this moment, both methods are good ways to feed your baby, and you will have a good outcome in either direction. The key here is then for me to say, how do you actually want to feed your baby? Shutting out all the BS of all the noise of everything around it. Here's what we do know. We know that they're both good choices, great choices. And so actually what matters is how you want to do it. And I might have and I'm an IBCLC. I have plenty of moms that are like, I really want to breastfeed. I'm home. Like that would be easier for me. I love the bonding experience. I'm like, okay, great. It might feel hard when we get started, but like, I'm going to be here to support you along the way.
Do you ever have clients that like they feel in their heart that one path is right for them, but you either can see that it may not work out for them, or you need to guide them in a different direction? For instance, somebody who's fighting to breastfeed and it's not working biologically, or somebody who really wants to formula feed, but their baby doesn't take a bottle. Like, how do you navigate the distance between what somebody wants and the reality of what may be available to them?
Giving them their options. This literally happened yesterday with one of our moms in the membership. She has been breastfeeding on and off, has a really low supply, struggles to get her baby to latch, has pain, and is 9 to 10 weeks out of the gates here, and is back and forth. And she goes back to it every time because in her heart, she just really wants it to work and wishes that it was, but then it doesn't work. And she's literally tried, let's just say, for instance, like everything. And it's likely a matter of that she has insufficient glandular tissue. Her milk supply is low. She has killed herself trying to make her milk great. She's done the best that she can. And then I have to tease out on this call, what are you making this mean? Do you want to keep going? Because you can. And when I'm able to have them look forward to the future and what they really want and what's best for them, what came out of the call with this mom was like, I wish that breastfeeding could have gone better, but I am 2 months out and it's been really hard. And I'm actually struggling to get out of the house, enjoy my time on maternity leave with my baby. And my baby's doing really well when I feed her bottles. And like, I'm not doing that though, because of what I thought I was supposed to be doing or what society told me. And it's helping to guide them to that place of what are you actually making this mean and what's really best for you. So that happens all the time. That could happen with breastfeeding, that could happen with pumping, that could happen with formula. And I think it's getting people to trust me or one of my nurses and know that we're really coming from a non-judgmental place. Truly. Like
Mm.
we
Yeah.
just have to get you to that place to decide what's actually best for you and then help you get there, if that makes sense.
I had that experience with sleep training. Everyone told me to sleep train my
Yeah.
baby. I tried a couple times with different either methodologies like courses. There's one in particular that's really well known, or even having somebody come to the house one night and show me how to do it. And it just wasn't the right fit for us. But people would say, "Oh, you're not sleep training your baby." Or my mom would say, "You're not sleeping. You have to sleep train this baby. You have to."
Right.
And it didn't work out for us, but I had to let go of a lot, I think, in order to just be like, this is what's
I
happening for
bet
us,
you did,
you know?
especially around that hot topic. I'm sure there's so much stigma around it, however you slice it. If I have a mom, you could see on social media, like, I'm sleep training, and then here come all the comments of what a horrible, awful person you are, letting your baby cry, blah, 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 this and that. Versus your thing, which would be like you could have very well felt judged telling people that you co-sleep or that you're not sleep training, and that you are still doing feeds in the middle of the night. And here we go again. That's okay. You have to do in terms of sleep what makes sense for you and your family and your baby. And that's how you come up with your plan. And it actually really just doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. For sure, you can go to your trusted sources for advice and guidance, right? So at NAPS, we talk about identifying who your people are. And your people is this like short list of people that you would want to go to and say, like, we're really struggling with sleep. What do you think? And you actually care what that person says and are going to filter what they tell you. You might not do what they told you, but you do want to get their advice.
Yeah.
And so that could be your pediatrician, that could be your lactation consultant, that could be NAPS, that could be your best friend, that could be your mom. But you're actually deciding who those people are so that when you're talking about sleep and someone says something to you about, oh my God, you're not sleep training, I can't stop that commentary. That is never going to stop. But what I can stop is from you giving a shit about what they said or filtering it. It's in one ear and it's out the other. That's the difference.
Absolutely. It's having boundaries around your decision. Oh my gosh. So that really resonates with me. Going back to our early conversation about how this country really doesn't support new moms, I don't know that we're taking it culturally seriously enough, this postpartum experience. What was it like to say, I'm starting a business that will serve new parents in this postpartum space? Were you embraced with that? Were people like, this is great, we need it? Or did people say, I don't understand, what's this all about? What was that experience like?
Exciting. And like for Jamie and I, why is no one doing this? Like, what is wrong with people? Not people. What is wrong with like our healthcare system or insurance companies coming a place of like, if we're not going to do it, like our culture, our society, our healthcare system, our insurance isn't going to recognize something. Like for Jamie and I, it was like, we know that this is needed. It's proven, like we see it every day over and over again. And for us, it became like, how do we work around the barriers? Because a lot of times places or people or even companies will, you hit a path of resistance and it's okay, I guess we'll just keep doing it the way we've always been doing it. Honestly, I feel like that's why we left the hospital system, is it was a great experience, but there are things that happen in a hospital system that happen because it's the way it's always been done. And Jamie and I are the personalities of, okay, cool, like that could be done and it's working really well, but how can we make it better? Or we're doing it the same way over and over again, but we could make why. We ask why a lot. And if we think we can do something better, or we know that we can do something better, we're going to find the way around the barrier to just make it happen. So for us, it was exciting in the sense of we just knew from all these moms and parents that we encountered that they needed it. And then we went on and had our experiences. And it was a place of like, why is no one doing anything about this? And maybe we can't get to everybody, but it became of like, how many people can we get to? And that started here in Boston of us just driving around and seeing patients all day. And then it was like, we can't get to enough people. We need to hire nurses. And then it became, this isn't just Boston. Like this is everywhere. This is a national. And so how do we get to more parents? We need to go online. We need to be virtual. We'll still be live and interactive, but we need to get to more parents because that's how we're going to make the bigger, greater impact.
But let's talk about impact for a second. When you're replacing a system that other countries provide for free as part of their general healthcare or their insurance or their government services, you can access and ensure that everyone is equally provided that care. When you have to privatize it in a country like ours, it then becomes financially inaccessible for many people. How do you think about just the embedded privilege of being able to access the resources that you guys offer?
And that piece of it obviously drives me nuts. And I realize this now through like lobbying and going to the state house and talking to legislators and trying to figure out how we can change our healthcare system, like from the ground up, and how can we get insurance to recognize these services. And so while I understand that right now the way it stands is that this is private pay, largely less privileged, is that if I can get enough people into these programs that we're running and collect enough data, because I know that they work. I get emails all the time from patients. I follow them throughout the first year of life. Our programming works. It's backed by research. It gives better outcomes for moms and babies. So what we're doing is trying to see as many patients as possible so that we can prove, right? Like we can prove to our government or our insurance companies that these systems work. And I hope that we can get grants or funding, right, from programs who will help us so that everybody can get the welcome home visit. And so, because insurance does not recognize that right now. And so here we go. I can't get through to insurance. I will go around them. And I actually hope that our programming becomes so big that it forces insurance or legislators to say, we actually have to follow that model of care because it is working. That's sort of where I'm at right now. But it's very frustrating. It's very challenging to be a part of conversations and trying to get myself into those conversations to make that bigger change and hitting like a lot of walls and resistance along the way.
Yeah. I appreciate that you're taking sort of a long-term view of how you can change patient care or postpartum care, generally speaking. Yeah. If you close your eyes and imagine 10 years from now, what kind of world do you hope is available for people who are new parents? And I said postpartum. I don't necessarily mean postpartum because I know you work with people who are welcoming babies of all types into their house, maybe through adoption and fostering as well as having given birth to them.
It's the things that NAPS is doing that we know through research have the better outcomes, which is everybody has access to prenatal education, quality prenatal education to have a better birth outcome. Everybody has access to visiting nurses that will come into your home when you're home with your baby to check on mom and baby, to support mental health, breastfeeding, pumping, bottle feeding, feeding your baby, to make sure that you're healing and recovering and that we're not missing anything medical, right? Like a preeclampsia or a postpartum hemorrhage, God forbid, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's so key to have that registered nurse, in my opinion, seeing you when you first go home, continuing that care from the hospital into your home because you're discharged after 2 to 4 days, right? And so having access to feeding support through lactation consultants, having access to peer support groups. In other countries, you're enrolled in those for free based on your zip code, right? Because we know that peer support gives better mental health outcomes. And having access to sleep education, because sleep is so important. If I can get parents sleeping through the night, that's going to improve their mental health. And then pelvic floor, like while we're on it, just throw that one in there too. Everybody should have access to pelvic floor physical therapy after giving birth. So it's a lot. I'm asking for a lot of things. It probably feels like a lot.
But you're not asking for those things. We collectively need those things. And it's a lot, not because we want them. It's a lot. There's a lot that we're not delivering on behalf of our new parents.
So it feels like a list as I'm rattling it off, but it's actually just everything that like we're talking about that is being done everywhere else. And that we see that those systems work really well and that those patients have really great outcomes. So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I just want to be here.
Yeah. Trying to validate or prove the wheel.
Yeah, which is crazy that it works to do that because we do have a lot of research on this area. We have a lot of, we see it firsthand.
Yeah. Okay. So you see people build their families every day and you built your own. You have 3 kids, including the Margarita COVID baby.
Baby ever. Just the best baby ever.
Yes.
Honestly.
I have a theory about third children, which is based on an N of 1, which is I'm an eldest of 3 girls, and my youngest sister is just the best human on the face of this earth. So I have this theory based on her that all third children are amazing. Okay, so you have seen a lot of families be built. You have built your own family. You're in the business of trying to help people navigate that first year. When you think about the word family, what does it mean to you?
Oh, I have so many thoughts on this.
I know it's a
That is
hard
a
one.
hard one. But truly, I think of the word support, because whatever your family is and whoever makes it up, because it could be a lot of different people, it's a support system that we need to strengthen and show up for in a better capacity than we're doing. Because the family is the parents, it is the baby, it is the in-laws, it's the grandparents, it's the partner, it's whoever helps you. And we need to strengthen and support that unit and that system, because no one can do this alone. And a lot of people are doing it alone or trying to do it alone because of how we've set it up structurally in our society. And so when I think about family, I think about showing up for these families in a lot of ways so that they can function as a unit to ultimately thrive in the parenting space.
I really like that. We haven't had that answer before, but it makes so much sense from where you're coming from, which is how do we support the family unit to be the healthiest it can be? Yeah. Is there anything we haven't covered that you really just feel like, oh, I got to get this out here?
Just that we joked at the beginning that our schedules are so busy. And truly, for me, what that has meant is that we've been building and launching our new online membership platform. We already have a membership. There's a ton of parents in it, and it does really well. But we took a lot of feedback over the course of 2 years and want to make it an even better experience so that parents from all over the country can access us. And so we've been building a new custom website and web-based app so that parents can be in our membership in a more mobile-friendly capacity. And just that if you're listening to this, check it out. Like, you literally can access registered nurses from anywhere at any time. If you're resonating with getting support from somebody like me, like if you vibe with my style while I'm talking today, like that's us. That's it inside of Nurture by Naps. And that's the safe place to come and ask your questions or watch videos or join in live and get the merge of the medical advice and the real life parenting advice in one place, but also have the opportunity to have someone like give you your options so you can be empowered to make your own decisions. So just check it out.
I love it. Where can they check it out? Like, if somebody is intrigued by this conversation, where do they find you?
So Nurture by Naps is our website, and we're really active on Instagram. Our handle's Nurture by Naps. If you just want to, every Monday we show up on Instagram and we answer questions for free. It's called Moment for Mom. I know that people have to get a sense of who we are and how we operate. So you can drop us questions for free each week and we answer as many as we can. I feel like that's a cool starting point for people. We have a podcast on Swaddled, but if you want to check out our membership, you can go to nurturebynaps.com and learn more, or you can email us and we'll send you a trial or a code to get in. We just want to spread the word.
It is so important to support, whether it's supporting them in building their families like what I do, or once those families have been built in the way that I am a huge advocate for the kind of work that you're doing. And so definitely check them out. They do great stuff. And Emily, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. I love this conversation, and hopefully I'll see you soon since we're both in Boston.
Thank you for listening to Stork'd with your host, Julia Carroll. This podcast is changing the conversation around the ways people define and create family. If you like what you hear, please support us by sharing with friends and following on Instagram at Stork'd_podcast. We also always appreciate it when you rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information, visit storkedpodcast.com to sign up for our newsletter. That's STORKD podcast.com.